Are humans still evolving? Scientists explain. This is based on a research from 12 experts that were asked whether humans are still evolving. Experts' consensus are unanimously yes, but scientists say we might have the wrong idea of what evolution actually means. The idea of natural selection or survival of the fittest seems to make sense in Stone Age times where we were fighting over scraps of meat to survive, but does this still apply? This is by Eva Hambrud, Metafact on Science Alert. Evolution is not the same as natural selection, they explain. Evolution is used interchangeably with the phrases survival of the fittest or natural selection. Actually, these are not quite the same thing. Evolution simply means the gradual change of a population over time. Natural selection is a mechanism by which evolution can occur. Our Stone Age ancestors, who were faster runners, avoided being trampled by the mammoths and were more likely to have children, so that's called natural selection. Over time, human population became faster at running, and that's evolution, right? Now, evolution can happen without natural selection. It makes sense for some Stone Age humans, but what about now? We don't need to outrun our mammoths, but we have medicines for when we're sick and we can go to the shop to get food. Natural selection needs a selection process. For example, dangerous trampling mammoths. So if we don't have these anymore, does this mean we stop evolving? Even with no selection processes and pressures, experts say evolution still happens by other mechanisms. Professor Stanley Ambrose, anthropologist, University of Illinois, explains. He says any change in the proportions of genes or gene variants over time is also considered evolution. The variants may be functionally equivalent, so evolution does not automatically equate with improvement. While some genes can be affected by natural selection, genes that help us run faster, for example, other changes in our DNA might have no obvious effect on us. Neutral variations can also spread through a population by a different mechanism called genetic drift. Genetic drift works by chance. Some individuals might be unlucky and die for reasons which have nothing to do with their genes. Their unique gene variation will not be passed on to the next generation, and so the population will change. Genetic drift doesn't need any selection pressures and is still happening today. Natural selection is happening in humans. As much as we've made things easier for ourselves, there are still selection pressures around us, which mean that natural selection is still happening. Like all animals, humans lose the ability to digest milk when they stop breastfeeding. This is because we stop making an enzyme called lactase. In some countries, the population has acquired lactase persistence, meaning that people can make lactase throughout their lives. In European countries, we can thank one specific gene variation for our lactase persistence, which is called 13910T. By studying this gene variation in modern and ancient DNA samples, researchers suggest that it became common after humans started domesticating and milking animals. This is an example of natural selection where we have actually made the selection process ourselves. We started drinking milk, so we evolved to digest it. Another example of humans undergoing natural selection to adopt to a lifestyle is the Bajau people, who traditionally live in houseboats in the waters of Southeast Asia and spend much of their lives diving to hunt fish to collect shellfish. Ultrasound images has found that the Bajau people have larger spleens than their neighbors. It's an adaptation which allows them to stay underwater for longer periods of time. There are always selective pressures around us, even ones that we can create ourselves. As Dr. Benjamin Hunt, University Birmingham says, our technological and cultural changes alter the strength and composition of the selection pressures within our environment, but selection pressures still exist. Evolution cannot be stopped, they said. So evolution can happen by different mechanisms like natural selection and genetic drift. As our environment is always changing, natural selection is always happening. And even if our environment was just right for us, we would evolve anyway. Dr. Ali Wan Scally, an expert in evolution and genetics, University of Cambridge, says, as long as human reproduction involves a randomness and genetic mutation, and the laws of the universe pretty much guarantee that this will always be the case at some level, there will continue to be differences from one generation to the next, meaning that the process of evolution could never be truly halted. The conclusion is evolution means change in a population. That includes both easy-to-spot changes to adapt to an environment, as well as more subtle genetic changes. So these experts say that humans are still evolving, and that is unlikely to change in the future. This is by Science Alert. A response published in partnership with independent fact-checking platform MetaFact, and it's by the 12 experts answering this question, are humans still evolving? On Science Alert. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.